Third phase of moon. Third phase of moon.
Welcome back, Blake Cousins here, third phase of Moon. Incredible interview coming up with Robert Morningstar from New York City. He's a civil analyst over there and also a psychotherapist. He has his degree in New York City and also an FAA pilot, expert in the Chinese language, and has been studying UFOs and the paranormal for over 40 years now. He's an editor at UFO Digest and written many books and articles on the internet in regards to the JFK assassination and UFO cover-ups. We're going to be going to the moon though right now. He's been studying the moon, all kinds of anomalies coming up in photographs that have been captured by NASA themselves, the Apollo missions. Robert Morningstar, welcome to Third Phase of Moon.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you.
All right, Robert, now let's get busy right here on some of these images coming straight from NASA. This image, can you give us some explanation in what you think this is and how did you discover this photograph?
If you're talking about the one that I call Big Ben on the Moon, which is that black tower, you may have a blue tinted photograph of it, which is a still photo shot off a 42-inch monitor to get backlighting on a really dark image. However, what it shows is a spire that's in a region of the moon just beyond the Mare Crisium. It's in a region called the Mare Marginis, and it's pretty far north. And this is one of several towers that I have discovered, or rediscovered, I should say, going over many photographs of Apollo lunar orbiter, NASA photographs, and the Russians they piqued my curiosity. I sent you a really good example of a Zond 8 photograph, which I believe shows how sharp the photography the Russians were using in the 1970s. It rivals what NASA releases today. Of course, NASA has tremendous resources and even higher resolution than they release. And often when they release a photo, there are missing spaces, blocked out forms. I sent you some last night, were color photographs from Clementine that look really great when you look at them from afar. And when you zoom in, you start to see blotches and transparencies, including white rectangles over the centers of craters, obscuring or blocking out what's inside the crater. So, I've made a habit of looking around in places like that. When I find, let's say, something that's been smudged over in one region, I say, well, what are they hiding there? So you start your search for looking for other photographs taken by other spacecraft or other countries, and I've found quite a lot of anomalies on the moon. And my interest over the last few years, I would say the last 8 or 10 years, has been the far side of the moon. In particular, the region of the Mare Orientale, which is the biggest impact crater on the moon. It's never visible from Earth. And the Russians were the first ones to take photographs of that. Back in the early days of the Zond missions, really grainy stuff. But even then you could see that there were very, very strange formations on the far side of the moon, and radically different than what we see on the near side of the moon.
The mystery and the exploration continues. Let me ask you, Robert, these towers that come up in these photographs, you say there's multiple towers on the moon. Let's go over this in detail, and how tall are these structures?
Well, you can see from the Zond 8 X02 photograph. That's spectacular. That's the whole moon taken in one shot. Really, it's almost perfect as far as getting the North Pole to the South Polar regions, the details, even in the darkest areas at the bottom of the photograph. The Russians captured something phenomenal in that photograph, and there's so much material there. And my purpose in being on your show, besides saying how much I admire your show, how entertaining it's been for the last year watching all of your UFO videos, is to encourage people to dive in and do their own research. You know, I'm just one guy, good set of eyes, but it's just two eyes. And I encourage people, and we now have a network of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are doing this kind of work, and each one is contributing something. So my purpose is to encourage astronomy clubs and individuals to take up the study of the moon, charting, navigation, learn the craters, and I teach both two things. I teach navigation of the moon, but I also teach remote viewing. And when I teach a remote viewing course, the last class is a group venture to remote view the moon, like Ingo Swann did. If you read his book, Penetration, you'll see Ingo Swann of the Stargate project succeeded in exploring the moon very, very deeply and methodically for DARPA. And I recommend that book. It's on the internet. It's called Penetration, Ingo Swann, S-W-A-N-N. And do yourself a favor, expand your universe. So that's my purpose of being here. But the tower itself, I mean, I was the most surprised person on planet Earth to come upon that photograph. You're the first person with whom I've shared the entire Apollo photograph where that tower appears. And that's Apollo 17 M2366. And you can't see it. You see the whole moon, it's actually about the upper third of the moon. And you don't see it until you go in and go right into the horizon. And I was looking at the pictures kind of sideways. You know, I've rectified it. Basically, I put the horizon on a horizontal plane, but the photographs having been shot from space, they were orbiting the moon, so the moon was here and the spacecraft was going around. So all the photographs have all the black sky here, the curve of the moon here. And so I'm going through, and all of a sudden, I see this spire sticking out, if I could show. Yeah, the spire sticking out of the contour of the moon's, the limb of the moon. And I did a double take, and then I went in, and it's a very beautiful thing to see. I've heard about it for 40 years. When the Apollo astronauts came back in the 70s, yes, they clamped down on it, but the lid wasn't as tight. And there was talk and chatter about what they'd really seen, and these things about the towers on the moon had been in the rumor mill, let's call it. But the Russians came up with these Zon photographs, the Tower of Babel photograph that I've shown you. I sent it to you. I hope you'll show on the show. That's the white version of the tower. That is amazing, intriguing, and the idea that NASA couldn't find that thing when the Russians have taken 3 photographs of it, and so we had 6 missions to the moon. How they didn't see that, I have to ask myself, where they were looking. But as you can see in the Zond 8 photo, the tower's there, casting a shadow much like a sundial. And that one, the one with the inset in the corner where I took it off and enlarged it, that is that tower. If you do your navigation, here's how you do navigation. You take the Mare Orientale, which has a lot of very distinct contours, 2 concentric rings of mountain from the impact, and lay a compass on it, so you choose one point north, and then you do run a course from the Mare Orientale, run it a line, a radius from it to your chosen point, then get other photographs where you see a piece of the Mare Orientale, and you lay the same compass on it, and then you do triangulation if you can, or at least 2 lines, and then you home in on these things. I sent you a 4-panel composite of something called Ellerman Tower, which is one of my favorite discoveries. There are 4 panels. One is a Zond 1, the other one is Zond 3, and I think the other one is Zond 8. And then there's a Clementine photo, and it shows you how I saw a very smudgy little mark in a very crude black and white photograph taken by the Russians, and it drew my attention. It just didn't belong there, even in this kind of rough, out of focus state. Then I looked for more photos. Then the next mission took a closer photo of it, a sharper photo with a different light regimen. And then, well, so here's I have 2 pictures. And then years went by, and I got the 3rd picture. And so I'm homing in over years of time. So now I know this region, the Element Crater region, which is in the southern regions of the Mare Orientale. And then I just chanced on this Clementine photo, which was composed of 22.5 million individual photos. And I have this knack, I don't know where it comes from, but I'll just see something or a thumbnail, and click, automatic, without even thinking about it, boom, and what jumps out? That tower. I mean, I didn't even have to search the picture. I went flick, zoomed in once, boom, and it's sticking up there, as they say, like a sore thumb. Now, the thing about Element Crater is that the NASA photographs always give you overhead shots of it. And the Russians took slant angle shots of it, and it's kind of like the Devil's Tower, you know, in the movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Element Crater rises right up. It's miles and miles high, but they always give you this flat, plain view over the top. But the Russians had taken these slant angles on it. And so on this crater is something that looks like a crater on the rim, but to me it seems it's completely artificial. In the other photographs that I've studied of it, when I enhance the tower, let's call one the crater, and then there's the tower that comes out of it. So when I've analyzed that surface, what I would call the satellite dish area of that tower, it divides pretty evenly into 3 sections. And impact craters don't do that. And so that's one thing that leads me to say that that's artificial, and that we haven't been given the real picture of Element Crater yet. But that's the closest one. The slant view of Clementine photo is excellent. Let me see what else I showed you. I showed you photos that I've come across in the archives, the Apollo 17 surface photos, that strange anomaly in the sky, which some people say is a UFO, a very, very strange, and like damaged construction, perhaps ancient. And I think it may also be, rather than a UFO, the top of a tower. They're so far beyond the horizon that you can't see the bottom, that the sunlight is hitting the top of it, spilling over, but you can't see the bottom of it because it is so far. And there is, if you look at the Apollo 17 photo of the Big Ben on the moon, you'll notice that it has an incline. It's kind of slanting back. Now that's very important, because that incline indicates that structure is much farther beyond the horizon than you think. It's not on the horizon. Were it on the horizon, you would see it vertically. But the moon falls away so rapidly that structures, let's say if you're up here looking at a tower in New York, it would be, let's say, like this. And if you were on a ship going away, you'd see New York sinking slowly under the horizon like that. Well, if you were on the moon, that would happen much more rapidly. And the effect is that a tower that looks like this looks like that. And so the pitchback is a very important indicator in this photograph that we are not seeing the entire structure. We may be seeing the upper half or the upper 2/3, but we don't know. But it is definitely beyond the horizon and quite a distance. So I'm intrigued by that photograph. I was tempted to call it Empire State Building on the moon, being from New York, but that big bright light in the center of it reminded me of Big Ben, having been there. So I like to use, creative titles and things that resonate.
Robert, what about this Edgar Mitchell photograph? We've had Edgar Mitchell on the show right here at Third Phase of Moon, and he claims he's got insight that there is a cover-up and aliens have visited Earth and they're here. What about this photograph?
I know Edgar. Well, that photo is one that I discovered studying the Apollo 14 mission to Fra Mauro. And I actually met Edgar Mitchell in New York in 2007 when he spoke at the Explorers Club, and we stayed in contact. So I came across these photographs that were supposed to be panoramic shots taken on the moon by Edgar Mitchell. He was supposed to stand in place and line them up so that they could do a room with a panoramic, so they could take these movie photos and join them, Hasselblads and really giant ones. They were going to have a room where you could walk in and see and feel like you were on the surface of the moon in the Fra-Mauro region. But I noticed in the photographs there were two photographs of one rock, and the second photograph, the rock was bigger. So I said, well, I know the mission is supposed to be, but why did he run up to that rock to take the second picture? These were thumbnails, you see? So I was intrigued. Why two pictures of the same rock? Why is the second rock bigger? There must have been something of curiosity about that rock that he chose to go from one position and get closer to the rock. So I bring up both pictures, and as I brought them both up, I noticed that the difference wasn't really the rock, but something in the sky. And in the second photograph is that object. And I enhanced the photograph, and I shared it with Edgar Mitchell, and he and I and another astronaut had a talk. I sent it to him, and he said, well, Robert, there really is something there. And then he offered this explanation. He said it could be something floating down from the Apollo spacecraft. Very tactful answer, but I don't buy it because I've seen that object in other photographs, and it's huge. It's the structure, the texture, but the interesting thing is the shape of it. The shape of it is almost like a shoot. The sole, the contour. I call it a foot. A footprint. It's kind of an odd foot. It's got a curve and a bend in it, so I just call it. It's got a footprint. But I found that shape in a 1959 photograph taken by an astronomer named Jesse Wilson, in which he captured about 36 UFOs leaving the northern section of the moon from the region where Apollo 17 landed, in the northern highlands. They landed in the Taurus Littoral Valley. So this 1959 photograph by Jesse Wilson shows two sets of UFOs rising, turning, and then flying by that as if that were a space station or a mothership or some sort of reviewing authority. And I do believe there is an authority on the moon, and it's not us.
Absolutely, Robert. And I think, some of these photos that Russia took of these towers, I think NASA's actually captured the same thing. They're just not sharing that with us right now.
How could they not? That was my question. It was facetious. How could NASA not find the Tower of Babel when the Russians had already provided, at least five photographs of it? And if I deduced where it's located from that Zond 8 photograph, how hard would it be for an astronaut to scope it out just flying by? You can't miss it. They're gigantic. But then again, here's another thing. You can't miss it if you're looking. But all the astronauts had a really tight schedule. Every second, every minute had this schedule to it. And they were doing their tasking. And what really got to see the views were the cameras that were on these were automatic photographs that were being shot. So by the Apollo-metric camera that captured Big Ben on the moon.
Wow, Robert, we got a few minutes left right here at Third Phase of Moon. I really want to thank you for joining us, sharing this incredible insight from Chinese presidents to Edgar Mitchell's, thoughts as he's traveling through space. Incredible. And, having an eye out for these things, these strange anomalies, and maybe NASA's hiding something. I'm pretty sure they are. Robert Morningstar, any last words here?
Well, keep your eyes open and do your work. And you have good eyes. I saw you picked up those other towers before I told you about them. And that's what I'm saying. Some things are obvious, and you just have to stand up for your reality. I mean, you know what I mean? For me to say, look, I believe my reality. I don't care what NASA says. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Absolutely, David. You're over the past few days, you've just been sending me some photos, and he just sent me some new ones. How about we just get to this incredible image that I just saw while you're just speaking within a few seconds? Is the Antarctica?
Oh, the tanks.
Of what looks to be like 4 tanks surrounding some kind of crashed UFO. You can kind of see the skid marks of this crash, or I'm not exactly sure what's going on. It's an incredible
I don't know,
picture.
man. I took the pictures quick because as I was looking at Google's doing an update on their Google Earth, and they're recapturing some of the pictures in Antarctica. So I captured them quickly. And even if you went to Google Earth right now, you can catch the images, but when you go to zoom in super extra, the images disappear. They've already went and took the images to where you can zoom all the way in, but if you're zoomed out, you can see the images.
Wow, this is what I would say breaking news right here at Third Phase Moon of what is a possible cover-up by Google. Sometimes we put up images of people that have shared UFOs that have been captured by Google themselves, and then you go back like a couple months later, and they've been replaced with another set of photos on Google Earth. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it almost makes it seem like, oh, well, we put up the coordinates, and then a few months later, people want to go check it out, and then they're not there, and that's a problem because people are thinking, oh, well, we just that UFO shot in there. This is
in that picture with the 4 tanks. If you look at the shadowing of the 4 objects in question, you can tell that there is definitely something on top of those that veer off to the left because the shadow line makes barrels basically. It looks like there's 4 different types of tanks. The first tank looks like it's a missile type of tank where it has missile guidance systems on top. And the other 2 tanks in the middle look like they're holding bigger guns but not a barrel. But the 4th tank on the left looks like it has a gigantic long barrel on it because it's super thin but long. And the other ones, the barrels in the shadow, look fatter, rounder. It looks like there's more parts to it than just a barrel.
Well,
but it definitely looks like that.
Are there coordinates that you could me to see if I could get in closer or see what's going on? How do we get to this on Google Earth?
It's super easy. When you're on Google Earth, if you just put in what's that name? That station that's over there, the
McMurdo?
Yeah. It's just right of it. You'll see when you zoom out, you'll see as you zoom into the right of it, you'll see 4 little objects from the crash site. But as you go to zoom in,
everybody look it up. If you share this, everybody needs to get this out right now. Yeah, that's quite incredible. Wow, David, that's so far this radio show is just. I've never seen that photo before. I'm sure people are going to appreciate it. They're going to speculate what's going on. It reminds me of straight up the Manitoba crash, First Nation reservation over there. Immediately after we got the word out, there was already military saying it was nothing. It was just a military exercise. But then we're getting all kinds of people saying and contacting Third Phase of Moon, no, it's we're being told to be quiet and not talk about what's going on. Cameras and people were detained. Photographs weren't getting out. And now it's dead silent over there.
They opened the FEMA camp out here in Arizona.
People they're still asking Third Phase Moon anything new over there in Manitoba, and nothing's come up since. It's over the past 2 weeks. I've not heard anything from that area. And I imagine they pretty much blacked it out, media blackout and a cover-up, just like what you're saying right here in regards to these photographs that might not be
Are you on Google Earth now?
I'm doing a few things at the same time, but I will be definitely getting to it after the show and blowing this up.
Well, anybody that goes to Google Earth, when you look at the McMurdo, that station. Where if you go to the Scott base and then right catty-corner of the Scott base, right as the road goes looping, at the top of the loop is the 4 tanks and that crashed object. I mean, it's super easy to see. It's so easy. But as soon as you go to zoom in, another picture, hurry up and overlays it, and it goes to a ground setting that looks nothing like the ground setting that you've seen before. The crash site's gone. They have like this little hole thing that looks like it's there, but it's definitely not the same picture at all.
Well, I think what we just did right here in this radio show is something that doesn't happen every day of the week. Things get shared, and news is broken. You know, it's I'm just sorry. I'm just going back to these pictures, David. The McMurdo base, Antarctica, everybody. Breaking news right here at third phase of the moon. What appears to be 4 tanks surrounding of what appears to be a crash disc shaped on the surface of Antarctica. Quite incredible. You know, I'm going to be focusing on those while we're doing this radio show. If anybody knows what's going on, definitely share it right here at third phase of the moon. Comment below.
Hey, if you're on that mountain, if you zoom out and you go to the very peak of that mountain, and then you zoom in and you look in, as you go to zoom in the mountain, a new picture appears with 2 gigantic holes in the middle of the mountain. And as you zoom into the mountain, you start to see like a structure or a shape, something up in the right corner dome. And then to the bottom where the clouds are, if you follow the clouds back into the hole, it kind of looks like it's being pushed out of a big gigantic pipe. It's really weird,
to say the least. You know, this is why don't they already just let it be known that we're not alone, and we've been visited by aliens, and there's more evidence of alien crash retrieval, landing retrieval. Not exactly sure, but why do they have tanks around it? Is this something straight out of, you know, the movie Gort? Klaatu?
It looks weird, don't it? It looks very weird, man. It looks like those 4 tanks went on and that whatever it is, obviously it crash landed. You can tell that it went from air to land. It made a trail, and when that went down, either the tanks were demobilized to where they couldn't move anymore, so they just left them there, and a storm came in and it snowed on them, and later they came and cleaned it up. Or I don't really understand the picture, but it's something that's on Google Maps, so it's not something that's been created by us. It's something that Google took a picture of, uploaded it, and it's for us to tell what actually occurred in that picture.
You know, if I was a soldier in one of those tanks, I would be thinking about the day the Earth stood still, when Gort came out and pretty much vaporized these tanks, pointing at the saucer. It looks straight up like the day the Earth stood still scenario, but instead, it's in the Antarctic. Quite incredible. Right. Hey, man, appreciate your breaking news story right here at Third Phase Moon, David. You keep your eyes closed. I know it seems like you got a good eye. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you here in the future.
You got it, man. Take care.
Hey, appreciate it. Well, that's Third Phase Moon Radio. We will be back 2 weeks from now, Friday night, taking your calls again from around the world in regards to the UFO phenomenon happening right now around the world as we speak. We're going to be going up to LA speaking with eyewitnesses, experts in the ufology field, abductees. We're going to run the gamut. We're going to be up there in Los Angeles for 10 days. If you want to share something with Third Phase Moon, you got a video, you got a report you want to share, if you've been abducted, hey, maybe we could hook up and do an on-site location report. Go to the About page on YouTube. Contact us. Our email's there. Set it up, and we might be seeing you over there in Los Angeles. Everybody, this is breaking news, Third Phase of Moon. Check out YouTube in the next hour or so. You will be seeing these incredible photos right over the Antarctica, and maybe these pictures might not exist on Google Maps here or Google Earth anytime soon. So let's get this word out. Share it to the world. Everybody, keep your eyes on the skies. We're not alone. Blake Cousins. We'll see you again next time.